things aren't 100% final, so we're still waiting back for word from the government and Lowry side of the mediation. But things do not look good. We tabled a proposal which was clear in terms of outlining how people who are aligned with the government cannot get opposition speaking time, leaders' questions and so on, but instead create a new category of government-aligned technical groups, and explaining that they can be on the Business Committee, on the Dáil Reform Committee, and that they would be treated equivalent to a party in government in terms of speaking time, in terms of committee position allocations, and in terms of committee chairs. We haven't heard back on that yet, but the mood music is really not good, because what we have is a proposal from their side for the creation of what's called a hybrid group. And a hybrid group may be comprised of independent members, some of which may support the government on a case-by-case basis and shall enjoy the following rights: leaders' questions, questions nominated for priority, opening speeches and second stage of a bill, order of business, private members' business, such other rights. That is every single right that an opposition technical group gets. So we're simply back, from their point of view, to where we were a week ago. They want Michael Lowry's group to get every single right that comes with being a group in opposition. They're saying they won't be called a group in opposition, they'll be called a hybrid group, but that's not the issue for us, is what they're called. The issue is whether they are being treated as if they're opposition when in reality they're in government. So certainly our attitude, unless it's the case that they come back and they say, in terms of our proposal, there's something serious to work with, we're open to amendments and so on, which I don't think is going to happen. If that was the case, then we may be here longer and we may get somewhere. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I mean, what our position is that this is completely 100% unacceptable. It's no basis to work on, that we've probably gotten as far as we're going to get, which isn't very far, and that at this stage we need a reconvening of the meeting of the party leaders and group coordinators, because that's where the agreement originally came from, which said we would recognise the difference between government and opposition. We'd work to ensure this is, worked out with the support of everyone in government and opposition. So we need to go back there to see if actually a solution can be found. I know that Micheál Martin, the Taoiseach, is quoted as saying we have to keep talking. Well, that's good. We're in favour of talking, so hopefully he will agree to have those meetings over the course of the weekend, and then the Dáil Reform Committee would probably reconvene on Tuesday. At the moment, the truth is we went backwards. The proposal they have currently tabled is even worse than the proposal that they tabled last night. It is literally just an opposition technical group, just called something different. So this joke of pretending that these people who are in government backbenchers, are not in government, trying to people have their cake and eat it, be government and opposition at the same time, unfortunately, there's certainly an attempt for that to continue to happen next week in the Dáil.
Paul, can I just cut to the chase? Let's say Micheál you have to meet with all the leaders and there's still no agreement, and the government says we're going to push this through. I mean, the reality is the opposition, whether it's yourselves or Sinn Féin or Labour, you can't stop the Dáil working in perpetuity. I mean, are we talking about one or two more suspensions of the Dáil? You guys have made your political point. You've made the government eat Lowry, and we all get on with our business.
I don't think so. Because what happened last week showed that actually when the opposition stood together firmly, we actually did have power. We forced the government to back down. It now seems that backing down may have been a temporary manoeuvre to come back to where we are here, but we did force the government to back down. The opposition is absolutely united in not accepting this, and I think a similarly defiant, clear, united position by the opposition next week, which makes the public aware that there's a really horrendous stroke being done here to facilitate Michael Lowry, that Michael Lowry is acting as the Pied Piper of the government in all of these negotiations, I think can have an impact, because I think the public pressure will begin to tell on the government that they're going to pay a political price if they keep trying to do this.
You don't think there's a law of diminishing returns if you keep getting the Dáil suspended and the public just go, look, we get the point you've made, the government has pulled a straw, but they have the numbers, they get to go for it, and we've just got to move on at some point. I mean, at what point do we move on?
Yes, I mean, we don't want to be in a position of suspending the Dáil, no question about it. But this relates to, there was a number of commentators who made the point last weekend that it was a terrible stroke that the government did. The opposition was right to object to it, but terrible what the opposition did, and kind of, shame on all sides. But that just says that we're meant to accept whatever they do, and that ultimately they can do whatever they want because they have a majority. That isn't actually how democracy is meant to function. There are rights for minorities, and there's a particular role for the opposition, and the capacity of the opposition to hold the government to account. Those things are being significantly undermined here, and I think the public understands that. I really think they do, and I think that means that the public is generally supportive of the idea of not just lying down and accepting this and continuing to push on it, and I think that pressure will tell on the government.
Well, can two things not be true at the same time? Can two things not be true at the same time? Just to pick you up on what you said there, that yes, this situation may not be right, and perhaps the opposition have a point to try and fight this, but at the same time, there shouldn't be a repeat of what we saw in the Dáil last week. And people not support you, but yet think that there's another means to an end on this. But
the problem is, we're trying every other possible means to an end. We do not want to be back in the situation where we were last Wednesday. We were serious in the engagement last Friday. We were serious in the engagement on Monday. We have produced multiple proposals. So we want there to be another route to solve this. But if the government just insists on having a vote, using their majority, might is right, well then there is no routes left to us except to object to the order of business in robust terms, and not accept that they can just ram this through and create a new norm of government backbench TDs being awarded key opposition slots.
Is there an agreement that the party leaders will meet and the group coordinators, or is that something you were proposing?
There's agreement from the opposition to request this from the.
Not agreement.
We haven't sent a letter yet requesting it. In fairness to the, so we don't know. And then I better run back in.
Can I just clarify one thing? So in the proposal that's come across from the government room, it's basically used to the fact that a hybrid plan
Yes.
can be used in other parliaments. Can you think of any other parliaments around the world that does that sort of system?
I can't. I can't. I mean, and that's but our own system. The whole structure of standing orders is based on government and opposition, and you're in government, or if you're not in government, you're in opposition. And the government's attempted solution here from the start was to create the idea of an unaligned group, which is somehow not in government or in opposition. Now it's being replaced by the word hybrid. But it's only a definitional thing, because in every other respect they're being treated as an opposition grouping, in terms of entitlement to leaders' question, in terms of private members' bill, which wasn't part of the proposal that came yesterday, and which a lot of people assumed, that isn't part of their proposal. Now it appears it is, presumably in terms of allocation of committee positions, committee chairs. So that doesn't fly, and I'm not aware of any parliaments that have that.
And just to be clear, when you broke off into subgroups like opposition and government, Lowry went with the government.
He did. I mean, the way it was presented, it was those who support the proposal that they have on this unaligned status in order to avoid that. But yes, Lowry is in with the government, and Lowry is calling the shots in there, and I presume is calling the shots in the government's meeting. Actually, a key turning point of the meeting yesterday was Lowry saying, "I will not compromise on having leaders' questions or priority questions," and then the government backed that line that there was no basis for a compromise.
On the politics of it, Michael Lowry got 4 ministers, Can Corla, potentially an assistant government chief whip, which has yet to be announced or whatever. I mean, at what point, to me, does the government go, Michael, we've given you a shed load here, just come into our government, speak into it. Now, they don't want to own him for
their own
particular reasons, but...
Yeah, I mean...
You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, but what we're expected to believe, right? The line from Michael Lowry, we've letters now from the Lowry Group TDs to say we will choose how we vote on a case-by-case basis, and we're expected to believe that they have no relationship anymore with their ministers, who it's been said that they're going to have a relationship, there's going to be resources to facilitate them, they're mentioned in the programme for government as support for others. So we're expected to believe now there's no relationship, whereas clearly, if it was a group of the 4 ministers who were negotiating by themselves, they wouldn't have got 4 ministers. They got 4 ministers because they brought along with them a series of people who are guaranteeing to vote with the government.
Paul, is there agreement from the opposition leaders that on when the Dáil returns that they will disrupt
that much hasn't been discussed, exactly what form that would take or whatever, but I think certainly the mood music from the opposition is absolute opposition to what is being attempted. I think we'll obviously need to discuss the details of what that looks like, but I think if this is what we're presented with, let's say they have a meeting of the Dáil Reform Committee on Tuesday and vote this through by majority, that will not be acceptable to us and will be protested about.